Welcome to The Explainer. We all feel it, right? It seems like our world is just stuck in this endless cycle of crisis. Well, today we're going to explore a really different kind of diagnosis for this problem, one that offers a spiritual perspective on how we might find a way forward. Okay, let's just dive right in. This feeling, this sense of total gridlock. You see it everywhere. In our politics, in social debates, across the globe. It feels like we're more divided than ever. And any kind of real, lasting solution is just completely out of reach. So why is that?
Well, the source material we're looking at today suggests this whole mess comes from a really deep conflict. It's a clash between two totally different ideas about truth itself. On one hand, you have the concept of an absolute truth. Universal principles that are always true for everyone. But on the other hand, we live in a world that puts a huge emphasis on individual reality, where my truth is based on my personal experience.
And think about it. If everyone is operating from their own unique personal reality, how in the world can we ever agree on a path forward? The source argues that, well, we can't. Every attempt we make to build a consensus is like building on sand. It just falls apart because the foundation isn't there.
So if that's the problem, what's the real cause? This is where our source says we need to look beyond the usual suspects, politics, economics, and start thinking about a spiritual diagnosis.
Now, it's really important to get what the source means by spiritual. This isn't about any specific religion or dogma, not at all. It's about a fundamental idea that we are spirits, beings whose existence goes way beyond what our five senses can pick up. And from this perspective, any real solution has to work on that deeper spiritual level.
So if you look at things from this viewpoint, our crises, they're not random. They're not just bad luck. They are the direct result of violating certain core life-governing principles. In a way, we're literally being confronted by the situations we ourselves helped create. But, and this is key, it's not for punishment. It's an opportunity to learn and to correct our path.
And that right there, that's a total game changer in how you see the world. A crisis isn't just something to survive. Within this framework, it's actually a chance for growth, for what the source calls spiritual regeneration. All right, so this brings us to the absolute core of this framework. The source identifies four fundamental principles that it claims are always at work, governing our lives, whether we know it or not. First up is balance. And this is not just some fuzzy, abstract idea. The source connects a lack of balance in giving and taking directly to the very real crises we see, from ecological destruction to the social breakdown caused by greed and mistrust. Second is homogeneity. You know the saying, birds of a feather flock together? The idea here is that social groups that are truly harmonious and lasting are built on a bedrock of shared core values and purpose. It suggests a lot of modern tensions pop up when that fundamental alignment is missing.
The third principle sounds a little formal, supportive collaboration, but it boils down to something really simple, a practical kind of love. It's about actively helping your fellow human beings in their own development. And, as the source points out, you don't have to look far to see the consequences of violating that principle.
And finally, we have responsibility. Now, this one is a huge cornerstone of the entire framework. It's about ownership, accountability, and having a duty to think about how what we do impacts everyone else. We're definitely going to come back to this one. And here's the kicker. These aren't just moral suggestions or nice ideas. They're presented as unbreakable laws, like gravity. If you violate them, there's an automatic reaction. It's not a punishment from on high, it's a natural consequence designed to make you aware of the imbalance you created, so you have a chance to learn from it. Okay, so if these principles are the laws of the game, how does a person actually use them to get out of crisis mode? Well, it all comes back to that fourth principle, responsibility. The source breaks responsibility down into three really clear, actionable parts. First, there's ownership. You have to admit your part in things. Second, accountability. You have to accept the consequences. And third, and this is huge, a duty to others. You have to think beyond yourself and how your actions affect the whole. The idea is, when you start consciously living by these three pillars, something begins to shift inside you. You start to build what the source calls a responsible individual reality. And this personal change is framed as the absolutely essential first step toward fixing our bigger collective problems.
Now, the source material we're looking at often quotes from a work called The Grail Message by an author named Abdrushan. And this quote really gets to the heart of the matter. It says that this path of responsibility, it isn't just one of many options. It's presented as the only way, and it demands complete, unconditional alignment with these principles. There's no room for compromise.
All right, let's bring this all home. How does this very personal, individual journey become the way out of our massive collective crises? The central argument is this. Real, lasting change won't come from a new political system, a new economic theory, or some new social program. The only thing that will work, according to this perspective, is a massive internal shift inside millions of individuals, a collective decision to start living in harmony with these fundamental principles. And to make this point, the source connects our current situation to ancient prophecies. It points to this passage from the book of Isaiah, suggesting it's a shockingly accurate description of our world today. The interpretation here is pretty direct. Why do our big meetings and agreements come to nothing? Why do the words we speak not stand? It's because we're back to that original problem, a world of competing individual realities, where most people can only see things from their own point of view, making any true consensus impossible.
And this leads us to one last crucial point. The goal here isn't to build some kind of perfect utopia based on our own human ideas. The goal is to align ourselves with something bigger, to bring our world into harmony with those fundamental, unchangeable laws of creation we talked about.
And that leaves us with a final, really provocative thought. What if all these grand external plans we're searching for are just a distraction? What if the real path out of our collective crisis isn't a collective plan at all, but an individual spiritual journey that each and every one of us has to forge for ourselves?